How much do you like programming? Do you like it enough to quit a cushy job in government procurement, rubbing shoulders with the top level politicians of your country? How much do you want to pursue education in computer science? Enough to trade a hot and sunny Dubai adventure for a cold and decidedly francophone Quebec, Canada? How much do you strive to win the approval of your family and compete with your older siblings? In today's episode, we are discussing all of this and more. Please welcome Mo Claudius and his story. I hope you're going to enjoy what's about to follow, and let's get on with it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 42 of the Office Hours podcast. Today, I'd like to welcome back Mo, and in continuation of a previous couple of interviews that I did with my friends Ali and Gary, today we're diving into Mo's history in the industry to kind of see his path and how he ended up where he is right now. So that's the plan for today. I hope it'll be interesting. So let's go. Hey Mo, how's it going?
Very well. It feels a bit different to be on this side of the interview, so it's nice.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to it. I'm also really excited to tell my story, however it comes out. So yeah, a bit nervous, a bit excited, a little bit of both. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. So, well, we're not going to go way far back, maybe a little bit. So, originally, you hail from Nigeria and you've completed your university, or I guess, shall I say, a portion of your university education over there. I believe you did your bachelor's there. But I guess before we go into the whole university part of it, what prompted you to go in computer science in general?
Okay, so I start with the funny part of the story and the actual part of the story. I grew up watching a lot of action movies, like when you watch like those guys, they go like, they click on the computers, then they go like, I'm in, those kind of things, like Expendables. I don't know if you remember the title of those movies. Yeah, so that's where like the interest started. And I remember I used to like trouble my parents to get us a computer, and we got a computer. We started like having different activities that we could do, build stuffs, and coincidentally, my brother also studied computer science. So that's where the real interest came from. So I would see him like writing codes. At the time, it was mostly C++ and Java stuff. So we would do stuff, cool things, and he would really show off what he has done to me. So he would just like put it in my face, like I did this, So I think these kind of things challenged me into feeling like, yeah, I want to do mine too. And initially, I had a different path that I was following. I wanted to study medicine, but I started getting interested in what he was doing, and I felt like, yeah, I could do the same. Yeah, this is how the interest really started, and then I ended up studying computer science in Nigeria.
So were you and your brother like very competitive? Did you have to beat him at whatever he was doing since he was like the older brother and everything?
Pretty much, pretty much. But we don't admit it that we are competing. But I hope he doesn't see this, so because he's going to start a whole new competition. Yeah, but pretty much, he challenged me a lot. That's about it. Like he challenged me a lot, and yeah, I appreciate it.
I see. What was the information accessible at that time? Because when I was younger and when I was playing around with computers, you kind of had very, very, very little information. I mean, I did have access to the internet, but it was like dial up a couple hours every month. So it's not like you can just trivially Google for things. You have to know what to look for and where to look for it, and occasionally even like buy books, gasp, to learn some bits and pieces about some API. So how was it on that side of?
I pretty much read most of his books. Most of his materials were my materials because like he was in uni, and at the time, I think I wasn't even when he was in uni, I wasn't even close to uni, to be honest. I was still in high school. And he would just like share some of his materials with me and tell me to read this stuff. I remember the first thing he taught me was like how to calculate your age in seconds. That's actually my very first code that I wrote in C++ then. And for internet, we had like access. Had the same dial-up stuff like that. But I guess I didn't really do much of like that. I just relied most on his resources to help myself. And I think I grew more interest in actually doing it, like coding, when I got into uni, because you have to do it to pass, to graduate, first of all. And also you realize that this is your life now. And this is not just something I'm doing to just look cool to my brother. I have to really like do this seriously now. So yeah, I guess the interest really came at the time. And yeah, at that place, there was a lot of resources. There was a lot of things to learn. So many at the time. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So you went for your bachelor's, right, in Nigeria. It was like a four-year program.
Yeah, that was.
And so like what was it structured like? Was it because like for me, I took a 2-year program. It was very much compressed, and the first year focused on like the theory and the fundamentals, you know, like the math, the logic, various other things, like computer architecture, how computers even work. And we didn't really have that much in terms of like practical writing code. I mean, we did have some, the labs for like C language and Pascal and things like that. But it was mostly like, oh, here's a loop, here's a condition, like very, very basic stuff. And a lot of it was also a lot of theory, right? And then the second year is when all of the quote unquote hard work started, where we actually had to do projects from scratch and things of that nature. So how did it unfold I guess in 4 years you can do more, but at the same time, you know, the Parkinson's law, if you give it 4 years, you can easily occupy 4 years. And if you give it 2, you'll be able to do it in 2. So
yeah, absolutely. The 4-year course for us, first I studied computer science and information systems. So I would say it's a minor in information systems and major in computer science itself. And on the other side, we did like some introductory courses to like accounting, economics, this kind of courses. And like, yeah, like you said, in the first year, it was mostly like, you know, the basics, some of the things that you were expected to know from like high school, and you have to like polish. And in the second year, you start building on that. I think in the second year was when we started writing like real codes. In the first year, we did a lot of introductory stuff. Looked into a few programming languages like C, C++. And then in the second year, we started doing like Java. Java, mostly we use Java for a large part of the program. And in the third year, we started looking into Visual Basic at the time, VB. I wonder if anyone uses that now. But anyway, yeah, we started doing VB and studying a lot about algorithms, data structures. And in the fourth year was when we went a lot into like algorithms and data structures and databases and like a lot of data stuff. So it was interesting. It was a bit of combined lessons on both sides, because like on the other side too, like on the information system side too, there was a lot of learning. So yeah, it was fun. But I was in school. I think I started uni at about 16. So I was pretty young. So yeah, I don't know if I would do it differently, but yeah, it was as fun as it could have been.
Right. So yeah, I remember very little of my 2 years because of how intense the program was. Like, yeah, and also we did have a bunch of classes that are like completely nothing to do with computer systems or science or whatever, because we had business communication, which was like English, like reading and writing memos and like all of the different things. We had business law, so we got introduced to, you know, how not to get sued and things of that nature. I don't really remember anything. I just remember like there was one lecture where it was like how to bake a tort, and it was like going a little bit into tort law, and I don't even remember actually what it all supposed to be, but I believe we had some accounting as well and things like that. I don't know how much of it I remember, but it was definitely filling out the time nicely. So, okay, you've graduated. You did your 4 years. Now you're a bachelor, freshly minted. How does it unfold from there? I noticed that you have some sort of internship types of work on your timeline. So how did that happen? What happened there?
So after uni, I think it's part of the program in Nigeria. Like you have to do like a internship before you graduate. I think that's usually in your third year thereabout. So I had an internship program in Nigeria. I remember this while I was doing my internship at the office, I was also doing another internship at home. You know, if you remember earlier, I told you my brother challenged me a lot. So sometimes we will have like a bit of clash, but it was good. It was just good to have this type of motivation around you. But um, it was it was a lot of it was new because it was the first time I was actually being around people who actually did this thing for real. Because at school, you know, you do it, but you do it for like, you know, for either schoolwork or like you do it for yourself, like just to feel like you learned something cool today, you did something cool today, but you realize some people actually spend 8 hours every day to do this. That was the first time I saw this. And
Yeah.
and I also noticed that there were different people who did some different parts of the application, and we also had different teams at the time. I was able to make new connections at the place. I think it was an all-round experience for me. At the time, the project we were working on was e-commerce. We were building something like Amazon, but not really the Amazon. I mean, it wasn't at the size of Amazon at the time, but that was the idea. I'm not sure now how well the company is doing towards this project, but yeah, it was nice to be part of it at the time. It was really nice. I remember most of what we were doing. It was the first time I was actually learning how to work with Java. I think servlets, applets, those kind of things. Just then time. So yeah, it was it was really nice. And at home, I would finish my internship at the office, and then I come home, and my brother would tell me like, "Well, a lot of people don't really use Java that much. So you should learn C sharp," because he was really good with C sharp. So he'd be like, "Yeah, you should do C sharp." So I had a different project at home and a different. So it was a lot, but it was nice because by the time I got back to uni the following year, I knew a lot of things. I felt good with myself. I was able to concentrate more in class because I understood more things that we were learning. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah. So you're
Good
burning
time.
the candle at both ends. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was very similar for me. I would come home, do the bare minimum amount of work required for the classes, right?
Mhm.
So, and yeah, it's just at the computer at all time. It was crazy. It was crazy, but it was fun. You know,
Yeah.
I never really minded it in a sense that it felt like a time wasted. It was more of a I learned a lot during those days. So it's definitely very very formative. If you have a chance to do
Yeah.
it, you should do it, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So like you did your internship. How long did that last? That didn't last too long, right?
No, it was I think it was just for like 4 months, if I remember correctly. 4 or 5 months thereabout. I don't know.
Right, right.
Yeah, I think so. About that.
So I guess it was around that time when you did like the move to Canada, right? Am I reading the
No,
timelines correctly, or
no,
was there
no,
something else?
no. It was several years later. I
Oh
think
yes, yeah, that's right, that's right. Sorry,
it was se-
I mixed my notes here. You did have other like jobs that weren't exactly IT, like not coding jobs, but you had like something to kind of do in between, right?
yeah. So when I finished my program, I worked for a company, G Eurafric. Um, It was a power company, mostly a power company. They were in charge of the Sapele power plant at the time. And but it was not exactly a coding role. but I was more responsible for everything that has to do with like software for the company. And I had the opportunity to do a lot of software stuff like build the website, maintain like the computers, software updates. So it wasn't really like a coding role, like you said. But however, as you know, I was also at the time we were also spending the rest of my day building a company um, with the same person, my brother. I feel like he's getting a lot of credit in this. He's getting so much credit, and I don't know. Hopefully, when he sees this, I hope he's proud of himself because it really helped me a lot. So yeah, we were building the company together at the time. I remember we would have like projects that we would work on. One of the projects was actually for NDPHC, Niger Delta Power Holding Company. It's a company in Nigeria, and we were supposed to build like an application for them to manage their fleets, like the cars. So yeah, that was one of the projects that we were working on at the time. Um, and after this, I also had while I was working here, some of the things I learned in this position at Geographic were mostly business oriented. So I also learned more even in the next opportunity that I had. I was working as an administrative manager at CIMEC. CIMEC is a China Machinery Engineering Corporation. They had a branch in Nigeria. They had the projects to work on, so I was part of the team. And at the time, I was also helping with like managing like the office and like also in charge of like contracts with the government. So sometimes we go to have like you know, contract conversations with like different arms of the government. At the time we were at the National Assembly. At the time I had to represent the company in the Ministry of Works in Oyo State at some point. It was very exposing, and I enjoyed this time working in this position. But then I felt like time was going, and I saw myself getting so comfortable in this role because it was nice. I was able to meet a lot of people with influence and a good opportunity, you know. But I realized that I didn't want to continue like this because I was afraid that it does not have like a um, you know, like it was not very solid plan. And I've spent all these years to study computer science, and I wanted to use it. Also, while I already started the process of building a company with my brother, I felt like I would really like to take more time while I felt still young at the time that, you know, just study more and do more in this field, you know. I would say I enjoyed what I was doing there. Honestly, it was very nice. I remember when I was leaving the CEO at the Nigeria office was they were shocked. They were like, "Oh, are you sure? Like, do you want to come back and stuff like this?" But I don't know, like no, I think I made the good decision to come here to Canada to study more and
That was
yeah.
quite a massive decision. I guess some
Yeah,
people
it
might
was.
listen to it and be like, a guy with a university education working for a massive industrial conglomerate, shaking hands with high people in power, and he's like,
Yeah.
no, coding's more important. Screw all this noise. I'm out of here. It's like,
Exactly, you know, it was very it was a tough decision, but I had to do it. I feel like I needed the structure, you know. You need the I was young and I felt like I needed the structure. In hindsight, sometimes I felt like maybe if I'd stayed back, I would have had a different life, but I'm glad I chose this. This is the life I want. So it's good. Honella.
excellent. No, that's
Yeah.
great. So you mentioned that you wanted to go to Canada to continue your education. Like, was that the
Mhm.
primary goal, is to get a university master's abroad? Was that the plan? Or like how, like why Canada of all places?
Um, to be honest, Canada was not even the initial plan. The plan was the UK. To go to the UK was the plan because Canada is so far from Nigeria, and I'm the youngest in my family, and I get the privilege of protection. I don't know how to say it. Like, I didn't. Nobody was really hoping that I would go so far from the house that nobody would be able to visit me or something like this. So I think the UK was the plan at the time. But then again, like the issue with that was that I wasn't really interested in like the programs that I was seeing in the UK. Especially because my brothers also went to school over there, and the kind of experience that they shared with me was not calm enough, was not reassuring in terms of like going to school in the UK. So I had to make some reflection, and I decided like either choose between going to Dubai or to Canada. But yeah, I guess I decided to follow the adventure to come to Canada. And I was really like excited about Concordia, to be honest. I just wanted to go to Concordia. So I was really just excited. I don't even know if it's just the name, the history, or like the program itself. Actually, aside from the program itself, I was really excited about Canada.
Yeah, that's very cool. So it's kind of interesting. Like when I got to Canada, and I got to Canada for completely different reasons. It was more of a I had an opportunity to that if I didn't would have basically it would have lapsed and disappeared because when my father moved here, they did the immigration package for the entire family, myself included. But I was living with my mom at the time, so when they got to Canada, I stayed with my mom back in Russia and didn't really had a reason to go, not necessarily, strictly speaking. And the whole thing was valid until I would turn of age. Up until like that door would have closed. And if I wanted to move here, I would have to start the process as an adult myself, completely from scratch. All of that stuff would be ignored. And so we thought like, hey, why don't you go there for a couple of years, get your papers, and then maybe come back in like 20 years later. What do you know?
Yeah, you're still preparing.
Yeah, still preparing, still waiting for a chance to get back. But at some point, my father was like, you can't be just sitting on your ass all the time. Like you have to figure something out, like get a higher education or something. So I started looking at various places, and I started Googling for things, and I found this thing. It's like, oh, the University of Surrey, and Surrey is like a neighborhood not too far from here. I'm like, oh, cool, they have computer science courses, blah, blah, blah. And I look at the address, and it's like, the postal code looks kind of weird. Oh, shit, it's Surrey, England. It's not the Surrey 5 minutes from here. It's the Surrey on the other side of the planet. Damn it, it looks so promising. And so, I had to do something else. So that was my brief interaction with my brief possibility of going to study in UK, but that obviously didn't materialize. Not that it was serious.
So you would have
anyway.
wanted to go to the UK too?
No, it's just because the name is the same. I thought that I have a university like literally 20 minutes drive from where I lived, but it was not, in fact, the right one. I think that was probably even before Google Maps. What the hell am I talking about? Like Google Maps didn't even exist back then. So searching for things was much more complicated, and it's like, hey, there's a university. Oh, it's in England. Whoops. Okay. Oh well. So, okay, you had a choice between Dubai and Canada, and instead of going to the warm Dubai, you decided to go to cold Toronto.
Do you know, interestingly, I didn't even know, aside from the fact that it was cold, I had no idea how much French people actually were speaking in Quebec. I can get it, like it's a bit Frenchy, but I did not realize like it was like so much French. Do you understand? Like
I think Quebecois would probably take offense at the fact that it's like, how come they actually speak French there?
like I go here and because the correspondence between myself and the university was always in English, and I did not really like think about it like, oh yeah, it must be very French. So on my way here, I think on my way to the airport, my brother was telling me like, why, like my other brother was telling me like, why did you even choose to go to Quebec? You know, like why Quebec of all places? And I don't know. I had no idea. I had no answer to give him. I was just like, yeah, just because. And until I got here, it was like, bonjour, hi, everything, bonjour, bonjour, hey, hey. I mean, but yeah, it's been nice. I would
Right.
say I enjoy it. Like it took a lot of getting used to. I'm not even gonna say I'm finally used to it, but it's better than the first few years because
Right.
yeah, you had to do a lot of adapting there.
Yeah.
But
The
it's
the
nice.
the next question I was gonna ask is like your experiences of integrating into Canadian culture, but now it's like correction. Not only you're integrating into Canadian culture, you're now integrating into a French Canadian culture while being
Exactly.
predominantly like an English speaker, right?
Yep, yep, yeah. Yeah. Yes. This was a lot of learning. To be honest, this might have been like the most challenging thing for me because aside from the fact that I didn't speak a lot of French when I got here, I also had a different accent. You know, like I had my Nigerian accent coming here. I guess everyone has an accent, but it was honestly one of the challenging things because, like, I remember sometimes at work one time during my first internship after uni here, I struggled to actually like um, socialize in the office. Then you still have to go to the office in person and meet people. And one of the struggle was actually having conversations with people. And I remember the team we had then were all like young people. So I remember someone outrightly made fun of my accent in front of my face, and it was like, you know what? You sound like that guy from Simba, you know, the guy. And it hurt a bit, but you know, what could you do? You just have to accept it and um understand how it's supposed to be a joke. Or we were all young at the time, but yeah, it was one of the most challenging thing. And I understood that also here, if you speak French, I think it might help a bit more to expand your opportunities. So yeah, I had to also put in work like learning French. When I got here at first, I had three goals, just three plans to on my arrival here at Canada: to stay healthy, to learn French, and to finish my school. That's just the three plans. Because I know like if I was able to get these three done, I feel like yeah, it will help me to do well. So at the time I would study for like 30 minutes every day. I had a book I was learning. But you see, you could learn the theoretical part of it, but you also have to speak. But here, if you speak with an accent or you speak a bit like then they change the language immediately to English. Nobody is trying to like patiently wait for you to finish your sentence. You know, it's
Right.
not like the English speakers. Like for English speakers, I think we have more tolerance
They're very
for
patient.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
more patience for like bad grammar, but in French, it's not very common.
Yeah.
People don't really have a lot of patience for bad grammar. The moment you make a mistake, they are trying to switch the language for you so you can speak more. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I yeah.
it was just what all these challenges, but it
Yeah.
was nice.
I
Yeah,
heard
it's good.
similar things about Germans. It's like
Yeah.
it's impossible to learn German in Germany because everyone switches to English
Mhm.
and never gives you an opportunity to like practice your German, which
Yeah,
is
it's like
which
that.
is which is I guess part of the reason why English took over the world is that they weren't snobbish
Maybe.
about it. It's like we'll wait for you to finish, we'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
now everybody speaks English and like how many people speak German outside of Germany? Not too many. I mean,
Not too
okay, there's
many.
like some historically German communes in United States that like left Europe way back, and they still like speak German and retain their German culture and heritage. And you know, for French, I guess they had a bunch of colonies, so that helps with the proliferation of your language.
Yeah.
But overall, English like just took over entirely. Well, that it's probably much simpler compared to French anyway. So they really had to invent the obnoxious system of like let's spell it in a way where nobody could possibly understand it, to kind of that shows the whole attitude. It's like speak it perfectly or don't even open your mouth. Right.
Yeah, they're a bit strict with grammar, like in French.
Yeah.
But you know, interestingly, now that I speak a bit more French, what I've learned is that the native French speakers don't even speak good French grammatically. A lot. I mean, they don't speak like they don't really follow all the rules to speak.
I guess if you speak very very proper French, you'd be seen as very pompous. You'd be like, oh, you arrogant prick. With your correct grammar, maybe. Who the hell do you think you are?
This is what I noticed from like, you know, like maybe all like other speakers, like they speak as comfortably. They just speak to pass the message. But when it comes to actually like following the rules and everything, I don't know. I don't think so. But again, I'm still learning, so maybe just as an experience right now, this is just how I feel. Maybe in a few years, I might feel different. We'll see.
Right. So, okay, you like made a deliberate, like the plan for you was not to necessarily go to Canada. The plan was to expand on your education. So why did you think that like bachelor's wasn't enough? Why did you decide to do master's?
Aside from it being a culture in my house, like where I come from, like in my family.
Overachieving?
Something like this, because in my family, it's a big deal. You don't stop at bachelor's. Aside from this, I also wanted to see, I was already on a different trajectory. Like I was doing more business stuffs, just on the other job I was working. So I felt like I would want something that will help me more to learn this domain better. And I could have done anything else, but I wanted to do software engineering specifically because I was more into like coding, building stuff, like especially like at the time I was comfortable writing codes and building applications. I was doing this, but I wanted to learn more about it because I don't think software development is just about coding, you know? Like there is a lot that goes into these things. It's not just writing codes. I feel like in some of our episodes, we must have talked about this like a few times. And there is different layers to it. So I wanted to learn more about this life cycle. And I think the program at, I'm not advertising Concordia right now. They didn't pay us for this, but the program at Concordia was really nice. In the sense like you could follow each of the life cycle, like from each steps of it, and then you could understand how you can build a software or like an application from like how do you say that? Like from like
from ground up.
From ground up, but there is a, you know, like you have like all these your materials, like your requirements. You do like all this requirement gathering was one part of the courses. Like you have to understand how to put these things together and like all these steps till you do deploy, maintenance, and all this kind of things. So yeah, it was
very all-encompassing.
Yeah, it was a lot of learning. Yeah, it was a lot of learning, to be honest. Yeah. And there was also the part where you could do like re-engineering, you know, like, yeah, a lot of learning over there.
Right.
It was nice.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So I guess in my family, there wasn't such an attitude of this familial pressure to achieve a very, very high academic, and I wasn't a very good academic performer in school. So I think
Yeah.
my parents basically didn't really have very high hopes for me in that regard. Uh, so okay, I had a question, and it kind of it's now slipping my mind a little bit. But oh yeah, I
Mm,
remember now. So when I came to Canada, I had to qualify certain requirements to go to like a college or university. Basically, one of them was English, and I guess the easiest thing to be would be to complete like the 12th grade English at school, right?
mm,
But when I came, I was 18. I did my like 9 years of school, and then I did my other 3 years of like a polytechnic school back in Russia. And the thought of going back to like high school, I was like, there's no way I'm going back to school, not even for a year. Which in
yeah.
retrospect, I don't
Mm,
know if it was a great plan, because I had to do a bunch of other stuff to get the qualifier so I'd be able to apply. But that's besides the point. But like the whole thought of like, go back to school again, oh no, there's
mm,
no way, right? So you
yeah.
just completed
Yeah.
your 4 years, which is a considerable chunk of time. You did a little bit
Yeah.
of work, and now you're committing for 3 more years. It's like,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
for me personally, I don't necessarily understand it. So I'd like to understand, like, how can you make such a commitment for 3 years when you're just in your early 20s? You just graduated. You're already
Yeah.
very much employable with your
Yeah.
bachelor's. Like,
Yeah.
why do it again?
You know, um, just so you know, like right now, you are asking me this question, and you're right. To be honest, at some point, you just get tired of being in a classroom. But right now, I tell you, my parents still ask me about when am I going to start my PhD, and we still have these conversations about like, oh, when are you doing it? You're getting older, this kind of thing. But yeah, I guess it's a it's the mindset. Like this is
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
But for
I
for for
see.
me personally, for me personally, I also wanted it.
Mm.
Like I wanted to do the program because I felt like I studied. It's true. I did like 4 years in a bachelor's, and I also had like um several certificate training. Like then times we go to like all these like computer schools to learn programming, to learn like different stuffs. So I had like knowledge. I would say, yeah, I was employable, but I wanted to do it to to feel like I know enough about it. In hindsight, I would feel like maybe it would have been a better idea to work more, to grow a bit more, to get a bit more mature, like in the industry before going back to school. Because I think at some point, like during the classes, some of the things that we were learning were mostly hands-on stuff, like things that you will do on the job, like how to be on the job.
So it's like, why
You
why
are
learn things what to do on a job at the university? We can just learn it on the job and get paid instead
well,
of paying them.
you could do that, but the learning on the job is very very linear, very
Yeah.
narrow. You only learn what the company does, right? Like you don't know if it's good, you don't know if it's bad, you just learn it. This is how we do it, and you just know it. But it's different from like learning from different experiences, like in a broader perspective, and you understand more things. I think I feel like I do now. It's just like when I was in class at the time, because most of the work I did in terms of like coding and software development was mostly like private with my brother only did my code review. That was the only guy that did my review. So sometimes when we talk about bigger stuff, like bigger pictures in the classroom, I felt a little bit lost at some point. But I think some of these experiences now stayed with me, and I can use them now in my days, in my job now, in like different places that I've worked. And yeah, I'm really glad that I did, because I really wanted to. Because I feel like you could do like your bachelor's. Your bachelor's is supposed to be like just to get you ready to work. But if you really want to know about the domain, you have to study more, do more study.
Right.
And yeah, this is what I did.
As a person who's not even an engineer, wink, wink. I did, yeah, I only have the 2-year diploma, so that's not even a bachelor's. And
Yeah.
it's just different. It's just different, you know. I think, well, you said that you're glad you did it, but I guess if you were to do it now, not like go back in time and make that choice again, but like if you were to make that choice now, would you have gone for it, considering the current realities of IT, of the industry, and of schooling in general? Like, would that be a reasonable thing to do, to commit yourself to like 7 years of education?
Yeah. And actually, yeah, I probably would do it differently, but I would still do it. What I would do differently would be, I guess, so when I finished my bachelor's, I was a bit ambitious, you know. I did not want to, I wanted to start at a high place and like, you know, be like in a really high position and all this kind of thing. So I did not spend enough time to find a job within the domain that would help me to continue as a software engineer. So I think I would have done that differently. Maybe I would have worked more in an office than do what I did, which is do a 9 to 5. That is different from actually what I studied, while also building a company with my brother. We were writing codes and building applications, like commercial applications. And although I gained experience from both sides, I gained business experience and I also gained like technical experience, but it's a different experience if you work in a software company and you do your 9 to 5 there, and then you can go to study more, you know, in masters or whatever you want to do. But I also think that you should do this within your 20s, to be honest. If you have the opportunity, you should crank it then and there, because after when you get into your 30s, I don't know. I don't think you're not as enthusiastic as you were.
I think your priorities just change by the time you're 30. I
Yeah.
would probably say to most dad who wants him to get a PhD, you know, um, it's
Yeah.
probably unnecessary at this point in time. You know,
I mean,
you can have a very comfortable career without having a PhD. And PhD to me, I don't know. I think it might be necessary if you want to be on like a bleeding edge of AI research or something like that, where you're actually doing academic work. If you're
mhm.
doing applied work, PhD, you know,
you know,
I don't know. I don't
you
think it's
know,
gonna help you that much,
I
as a personal
I
opinion,
I
of course.
I understand it, but the reason why I will do it is because I know, like, right now, software engineering is not just about like when you tell someone about being a software engineer, the first thing they think about is like you build a website or you build stuff. But I feel like there is a lot into it. There's a lot about it. There's a lot that you can learn in terms of like software engineering itself. So there are several domains, different domains where you could still learn, you could still study, and you could do better. Honestly, like I feel like we right now, I don't even think I've scratched the surface yet in terms of like how much that I know could go into this career, you know. But we'll see. We'll see how much time I'm able to put aside to go to a 5-year program right now to do a PhD. I don't know, or maybe I don't know. Honestly, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I will tell you when it's ready.
If you were to be doing a PhD, what thesis would you do? Like, what subject would you pick?
Honestly, if you asked me this like last year, I was thinking more about something around data science in this industry. But nowadays, I feel more drawn towards artificial intelligence. Now I've been following a few people who are actually doing their thesis in this domain, and I'm seeing the things that they are learning, I feel a bit motivated about it, but we'll see. Maybe next year I might want to do, we'll see. When it's time, I will decide. But these are just like ideas that I have right now.
Fair enough.
What would you suggest to me?
I have no idea.
If I ask you, as Vasily, my mentor, tell me, what would you suggest to me?
I'm very far removed from academic pursuits, so it's a really, really tough question. And I don't know. I haven't had a chance to think about it at all, so I don't know if I can give you something right away. Maybe I'll have to think about it and we'll figure it out.
When you do.
So now that you've done your yet another 3 years worth of ivory tower and marble halls, you now still have to kind of go out there and find a job. And so I don't know, maybe it's a bit of a too personal of a question, but like, you decided to stay, or are you planning on going back at any time? Because for me, it never, it's just like one thing led to another, and 20 years gone by. It wasn't like some grand plan or anything like that. It's just like, oh, you get a job, then, you know, you have an apartment, you rent it out, then, you know, you start a relationship, then you buy a place, and it's just so on and on it goes, right? And then you look back and it's like, oh wow, it's been this long, right? So what is it for you?
So when I left Nigeria, in truth, I decided in my mind, yeah, this is it. This is where I'm going to build my life, you know. But some part of me wanted to go back. I'm pretty sure maybe my family might be surprised to hear this, but yeah, some part of me wanted to go back because it was a bit difficult in the beginning. Like, I was here by myself, and I didn't have like any family around. And also it was already difficult enough to be in a different country. Also thinking that you probably have to learn a new language to be able to properly integrate. That was another challenge. So I thought about it, and at around like 2020, I really wanted to do it because then the company that we were building earlier was at a better level, and I could have like more responsibility there. And I considered it, to be honest, but I feel I felt like if other people could do it, like I could do it. Maybe stay a bit longer, and coincidentally, I got an opportunity at a company here. It's a media company here, and like we work together, and I think that's where I started to change my mind a bit. You know, like, you know what? Maybe I can really do this. You know, because then I started socializing a bit more. Because then I did not really do a lot of. I mean, I was social, but I was not socializing. I don't know. It's two different things. Like, you know, you could be out there, but you're not really like connecting a lot, you know. So it was weird, but it's what it is. It was the challenge, and yeah, it was nice.
Yeah, I also certainly had these moments where it's like, damn it, I should probably go back. And then I was like, but what am I gonna be doing with all this stuff? I have to do something with it, and like, it's just too much of a hassle. So I guess I'll stay, whatever. Yeah. But for me, it was a little bit different because I visited quite often. I would go about once a year, and I just kind of started feeling like it would be more difficult to get simple things done out there that I already have out here. So it's like, again, I didn't like, it's one thing to reset your life when you're 18, but like when you're approaching like your 30s, it becomes quite different, right? Because even thinking about it now, maybe this whole move, you know, I don't know, I can't necessarily say that I regret it, but it's like, how would have my life turned out if I didn't do it? Because even if you leave your country for a few years, you're already missing out. Even if you intend to go back, like let's say my intention was to get here for like 3 years or however long it took at the time to kind of get your papers, to sort of anchor yourself in a sense and then go back. But you leave for 3-4 years where you're just sort of at that age where you're building all of your relationships that will kind of carry you forward into the future, right? So if you miss out on that, like, you lose parts of your culture in the sense you come back, you're not quite the same, right? You don't quite fit in as well. Even if you return, you like missed out on all these opportunities of having all of the friends who then, you know, you rely on later on in life, and you made some here that you can take with you back there, right? So every time you do that reset, it's not even about, like, psychologically, I guess it wouldn't be that difficult for me to just like flip the table, pick everything up and be like, you know what, I'm doing it. But just in terms of being ensconced where I am right now, like what surrounds me, the people, my friends, the broader community, you know, the people that I worked with, the people that I meet professionally, like, you know, all of that, it just disappears, and you're starting completely from zero, and that's like such a difficult thing to do. So yeah, I don't know what would precipitate me to do that if it ever comes to this. How much bullshit will I be willing to tolerate?
It's a different thing. You see, this is another thing that I consider at the time, because like you said, like if you leave your country for a few years, going back, you lost some time and also like some experience that you will be different. Like you gain more experience here, but it's a different experience.
It's a different experience,
So like you have to weigh both ends. But yeah, it's something that came to mind, to be honest. And no matter how long you stay or how often you go back and come back, it's different. Like if you work here for like a few years and you go back home, you may know how to do things the Canadian way, like, you know, like the Canadian culture, and like, for example, honestly, there are things that you know, like they happen. For example, like I think when I got here, I had to do like change my driver's license, for example, and I think we had like a way to do this, like in Nigeria, that was a bit different. But yeah, just knowing how long it takes to get a driver's license here was also a challenge. But this is not even a good example. But I just remembered this randomly, like one of the things that was challenging. But yeah, I considered it. But yeah, Onela,
yeah. It's kind of interesting. I remember I watched this podcast last month about a guy who, when he was a very small child, like a baby, basically, his family pretty much like abandoned civilization and went to live in the woods, effectively. Well, I mean, they had a house, they built a house and everything, but they were very far from civilization. And his father was a writer, an author, and somewhat of a like cultural, I don't know, phenomenon, like some sort of spiritual leader. So he was like homeschooled and all of these other things, but he was surrounded with like other people would come to see his father because of his literary works and whatever. So he was not, you know, growing up like Mowgli. He still was taught things and culture, and they had like radio. So he wasn't completely ripped out of the society. But I remember he was just telling that when he like reached 18, he decided to return back to civilization. It was like, I didn't even know how to buy a ticket for the bus because that just wasn't a thing. And I was like too embarrassed to ask people. So I had to like figure out the most primitive, trivial, basic things that nobody of us ever pays a second to. And it's like, yeah, I had to learn how to buy a ticket to ride a bus. Like, what are you going to do? So obviously it's not as extreme, but a lot of things you would be like, okay, what do I even do now? Like, I have no idea.
Exactly. This is true. But
right.
We're here.
Yeah. Yeah. We kind of strayed a little bit, but maybe as we get to close the conversation, like you graduated, you have your master's, you now finding a job. How do you find working? Like you had a chance to work in Nigeria and you had a chance to work in Canada. Like, is there, like, what's your experience in terms of like cultural differences and overall thing?
It's totally different. Two different places, completely different. Because here, first in Nigeria, people work. Um, you don't live for work. Like, how do you say? Like, you work because you get the money to fund your life. How do you
So
say
the
that?
work
Like, you
supports your like you work to live. You don't live to work, right? Is
it's
that what you're
something
trying to
like that.
say? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So over there, like it was a bit it's calm in a way, depending on the industry where you work. It's calm. You understand why you are working. Like sometimes, like here, it's a bit different. Like sometimes, and I've not even like worked in the US yet, but I heard like it's even worse in the US. Like sometimes here, you find yourself um it feels a bit like classroom sometimes because because sometimes you say we're working together like on a project like stuff, but at the same time you still feel the need to want to put the extra just in case you are doing your appraisal at the end of like somewhere somehow you want to get the extra star somewhere on your resume. So it's a bit more competitive in the sense, a little bit, slightly. Not I've not seen it too obvious yet, but it's just that you feel it. And also, um, you have better relationship. Like I feel like the relationship that you build with your coworkers here, it's not the same that you build with your coworkers in Nigeria. It's a bit different. If you're not on the same level, like you have the same responsibility, it's a bit different. For example, here you could go get drinks with like the principal developers or like the 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 big shots of the company, and it's just nice because you could have different things to talk about. Um, in Nigeria, it's a bit different. Like you know your place, so it's like that. You just know where you should be, and I think this was one of the very shocking things for me when I first got here. I think um, I didn't know how to relate with the CEO. Like the first company I worked for, the guy was really nice. And he would just like come to me, like just trying to like make conversations. And I was just wondering, like, how am I supposed to have conversations with you? You're the CEO, you should be in your office on a high chair, just sitting there and looking at everybody like this. But it's different. I guess if I have to choose one, I would choose here because, of course, I'm more comfortable here now and I understand how things go here now. And yeah, so I'll choose here, but they're very different. They're very, very, very different. And imagine how it is like back in Russia.
Yeah,
like,
I never worked professionally out there, so I have no idea, to be honest with you. It's probably completely different. So that would be the other thing too, is like just trying to get plugged in into this culture where we're like very libertine around here. We can just literally like go talk to CEO if we chose to, and it's
hmm
it's not seen as anything outrageous. A couple of
yeah,
companies ago, the CEO, my desk was like right next to our CEO's office, and she had the open door. And sometimes when she was
yeah,
like negotiating or like reading some contract, she'd be like, "What the hell's that?" Like you can
yeah,
you can hear her like saying like all of these things, and then she just pops up and is like, "Hey guys, how you doing?" And we just like chat for a few minutes. So it's just like totally
yeah.
regular run of the mill type thing. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's interesting.
So yeah, I guess we've already approached to an hour mark, which is getting quite out there.
hmm
And maybe we can wrap it up here. But I guess one final question before we depart is that like what do you think your future holds for you? I know that one option we've already considered is like doing a PhD and that whole thing.
yeah.
But in
hmm
terms of like if you choose not to do that, what other possibilities do you have in mind?
I want to do, I don't want to spend my entire career in like, in one, in one direction, which right now I work mostly in like a web application. And I would like to to see and work in like other industries in software engineering. Right now, I have a few that I like. Like I've always wondered how, um, you know, the applications in like cars, like like in the automobile industry, in like maybe I also like data science. So I don't know. I feel like I would like to do more things. I would like to um, spend my time, my career timeline in different areas. So I think I'm just preparing for the next level now, like the next exciting project, the next exciting adventure, and we'll see how it goes. I'm glad that I'm gonna have you with me. So yeah, we'll do it together. We do it together. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This is the plan for me.
All right. I'm super stoked for you. Thank you for that story. That was quite interesting and very very different from other stories that we had here so far. And I think we'll probably do one where I'll be on the other end and I'll tell my story, and
Nice.
it would just be interesting to kind of compare all the different kinds of ways people end up in this racket, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, for all of you who are with us and still watching, thank you very much. I hope you found it interesting, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.
Bye.